Good.
Yeah. Or visible at least. I think you're probably right. Having shut the curtains, it wouldn't have worked. Mind you, I could use. Mind you, I could use sunglasses right now.
Or live. Say hi.
Hi, everybody. We live.
Hi, everybody. We're just going to give it a few minutes and let people join. But when you are there, please say hello. Let us know who you are. Tell us where you're from if you want. Whatever. We are still in Mexico. It's a lovely day here today. I think it got a little bit burnt down by the pool. There's 3 people watching us already. So say hello. Let us know who you are. If you watch the replay, let us know you watch the replay. You know the drill by now, probably. Just we like to see how many people watch and how many people get something from it or whatever. So anything at all, comment. As we go through what we're talking about today. Hey, Sheena. Thanks. If anything resonates as we go through today, feel free to ask questions as we're talking, and we'll address them as we go or after. The March program is open for registration or for enrollment or whatever. I've had quite a few conversations or several conversations in the last couple of days. If you're interested, if you would like to know more about it, if you just want to talk about it, see what it is so I can assess your goals, see if you'll be a fit, please reach out. Don't hesitate. There's not going to be any pressure. I'm not going to be trying to pressure you into joining if you're not ready. But sometimes the conversation itself at least gives you an idea of what it is, what I'm about, what we're about. Can we help you? If I can't help you and we have a conversation, but I know somebody who maybe is better suited to help you, I will recommend that person to you. I can even do a 3-way chat where I put you in touch with that person. Again, just reach out. There's no harm to have, it is sunny when the sun shines. There's no harm to have the conversation. So if you are interested in a program, would like to know more, feel free to reach out. I do have some people already registered, and it starts March the 6th for orientation week. Orientation week is just not a pressure-filled week at all. I include it because I like to slowly introduce the material over time. I like to give my clients adequate time to read everything before they fully start the program, ask questions, get everything answered. I do a live video explaining how it works, kind of getting you pumped up, and we go through that process. And then March 13th is the official start date, and it will run 6 weeks from the March 13th start date. What else do we want to say? Anything else about that?
No, I was just looking to see if there's still ice cream on the shirt.
Okay, we're just going to give it a few seconds and see who else or if anybody else joins. But if you're there, like Sheena, please say hello and let us know who you are. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk today about self-discipline, the development of self-discipline, why self-discipline is important. We'll talk about things like delayed gratification, how self-discipline leads to success with your goals. Hey, Anne-Marie. But not just success with your goals, but, it can lead into, or seep into all other areas of your life and make, it plays a role in a lot of things. Hey, Shay, how are you? You're the girl we ran into in West Edmonton Mall that time. Remember I told you? Remember we were walking and that's her. Okay, do you want to start? No?
With?
No, I'm going to start. You ready to start?
Yeah, we can go.
Okay, so we decided, because every morning on Tuesday we sit down and we talk about what we're going to talk about for coffee time. So today we were sitting at breakfast and we decided to talk about self-discipline. And some of the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I follow this lady on Instagram who I've been following forever. She was one of the inspirations for me when I decided to compete, and her name is Dana Lynn Bailey. Probably some of you you also follow her. And anyway, she did a question and answer on her Instagram yesterday, and one of the questions asked, and this was asked to me a couple of weeks ago as well, was something along the lines of, how do you stay motivated? And if anybody knows anything about me and has been following me for any length of time, you know that I always say motivation is bullshit. You can't rely on motivation. Motivation is something that comes with action. Like, you will feel motivated from time to time, but you'll never always feel motivated. So you have to learn how to develop self-discipline in order to show up consistently. Once you practice and develop your self-discipline muscle, whether you're motivated or not, you're going to show up. You're going to do the thing. And Dana Lynn Bailey explained that in her little blurb on her story yesterday when she responded to that. She said that she's the majority of the time not motivated herself, but she still gets her ass in the gym. She still shows up for her nutrition because she knows makes her feel her best, and she just relies on her self-discipline muscle because she's practiced it for so long that now self-discipline is just a thing that she uses. And I'll use an example of myself as well, and I talked to my clients in both my 6-week and my Badass Tribe about this today. So since I was sick a couple of weeks ago, I haven't been feeling woohoo, yay, yay for my workouts. None of my workouts have been epic since I've been sick. And like this morning, for instance, we got up at about 6:15, a little bit later probably than we even wanted to get up, and I literally struggled to get up. We both got ourselves to the gym. Kevin's actually more motivated than I am in the last little bit. We got our asses in the gym, and all I was thinking through the entire workout was just get it done so you can go enjoy your coffee. So got it done. It's not that I'm not pushing hard, but I'm definitely not motivated. I don't feel great. I'm not enjoying my workouts like I normally do, but I'm still showing up because I've developed and practiced the self-discipline muscle enough to know that I'm just going to show up regardless. Using lack of motivation will never be an excuse I use ever again, although it has been in the past. So we've taught ourselves that. And the main reason I wanted to talk about it today is because those questions have come up with me as well in like the last couple of weeks. It's been talked about a lot, like motivation. How do you do it when you're not motivated, et cetera, et cetera. And then you had something that you brought up.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to touch on just quickly about motivation, what you just said earlier, if you look at it from the reverse, when you say you don't feel motivated, well, then you just have to understand that motivation is in of itself a feeling.
Right. And just like you're not always happy, you're not always sad, you're not always, mellow or whatever other feeling, you'll never always be motivated either. So expecting to always be motivated can actually have you in this mindset where because you're expecting to be motivated, when you're not motivated, that drags you down and then you don't show up because you're expecting to always be motivated. You're expecting to always have epic workouts. You're expecting to always want to eat well. You're expecting to always have great positive energy. You're expecting all of these things. And when just like life, everything's up and down and all over, then expecting motivation is kind of, when you think about it, sit back and think about it, it's kind of silly.
Yeah,
to expect it to be there all the time.
Right. So I think one of the reasons why you get that question a lot is simply because what a lot of people see from you, they see a lot of your energy, they see the fact that you work out a lot, they see the fact that we're always doing something, we're always out and active, we're always walking. So there's always something of interest that we do. Whether it's our workout for the day, like I said, just going for a while, all those sorts of things. So people look at you and go, "Wow, geez, man, you're always on the go. You're always doing something. You're always motivated. So how do I get that?
Right.
So how do I become that person?" This is where it segues into the self-discipline thing. Right. So the people that see us now, the way that we are now, aren't people who saw us how we were when we started. And
right.
The people that are just starting their journey have to understand that that's how we started. Right. We started in the same boat.
Yeah, there was many times I came home from work at Suncor and actually sat down on the couch and didn't end up doing anything.
Well, I remember not necessarily sitting. I remember watching you come in, sit down, fall over,
and sleep.
Cry incessantly for a half an hour, fall asleep for the other half hour, and then get up, eat, and go to bed.
That's right. It's very true.
But the thing of it is that if anybody, like you referred to Dana Lynn Bailey there, if anybody follows her now and you're just starting your journey, you're going to look at her and exactly that. You're going to see somebody that appears to always be motivated, that appears to always be in the gym, working out, all those sorts of things. And the reason that is what we show you is because that's our lifestyle. That's the discipline that we have.
Right. And
we don't feel like being in the gym every day. We're not necessarily every day because we're not in the gym every day. That's a misnomer. But what I'm saying is that we go to the gym because we've taught ourselves that if we want to feel better, that's what we do. We may not feel better that day or particularly in that moment, but if we stop going to the gym,
right,
when when we're on a normal routine.
Yeah.
Then you begin to lose motivation. You begin to lose the discipline. You begin to lose the
Right.
focus and all those sorts of things. I mean, that's me speaking from experience. Starting the gym last year after being absent from the gym for probably about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and that all stemmed from basically being at a job where I was able to go to the gym, I was able to meet with a personal trainer and do all that. Then my shift changed and all that sort of stuff. And I just said, screw it.
It's very easy to, it's very hard. Let me say it this way. It's really hard sometimes to differentiate between what's a reason and what's an excuse. So, like, if you're sick, obviously that's a reason.
Right.
If you're coming home from work and you're tired, that's not a reason. That's an excuse. If you're coming home from work and you sit down on the couch and you get lazy and tired and then you don't do anything, again, that's an excuse. And we're talking right now, we're using workouts as an example, but this literally applies to anything that you want to do and you keep incessantly repeating that you want to do, but you're not doing. So, and Kevin's right. Like, I used to look at Dana Lynn Bailey a long time ago before I created the lifestyle or before we created the lifestyle that we have today, and I would be thinking, how the fuck is it possible that she can be so motivated all the time? And what I learned over time through my own experience and through, obviously following these people and then having all the education that I have, that nobody is motivated all the time. We, as people who live this lifestyle, who, go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, who walk and try and get this, try and stay active on a daily basis, we aren't any more motivated than you. We don't have superhuman powers. It's just that we've practiced and we've practiced and honed in on the self-discipline as basically a part of who we are.
Right.
We've developed self-discipline as another part of who we are. So when you look at us as these superhuman people or these Wonder Woman people or whatever you want to call us, we're not. The majority of the time when on a week when I go to the gym, the majority of the time I'm not motivated to go, but I do go. The majority of the time with other things that Kevin and I have accomplished in our lives, or, when I first started specifically even with food, I was not motivated to make those choices. I just made them because I wanted something different. I wanted something better for myself. I wanted a different lifestyle. I wanted to feel better. I wanted all of it. I wanted to be different. I wanted change. And when you want change, you have to put your foot down and decide what you are and aren't willing to do. And the things that you're not willing to do, that's okay, as long as you understand what that means toward your goals. And the things that you are willing to do, you have to be disciplined enough to do them, right, regardless of what you're feeling like.
And that goes along with eating, things like that. So one of the biggest things that you try and teach your clients is, specifically with eating, is the fact that the majority of the people that come in are new to it to a degree.
Hey, Heather.
And have the all or nothing mentality where and have the good versus bad food mentality where, and we talked a lot about this Christmas, New Year's sort of thing, but again, it's part of the discipline, where you think that you have to be so strict with everything. And what you just touched on just now, when you think about it in the context of food, if you don't have the good food versus bad food mentality, and you do everything within the context of your calorie limits and things like that, and what you set for yourself as part of your discipline, that's going to, help you achieve what you're trying to do there. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the other,
I kind of lost my train of thought halfway through it, so I just kind of had to make that up as I was going through. Because the problem is, I get something. The light bulb turns on. She keeps talking, and by the time she's done, the light bulb burns out. Actually, it's not a light bulb; it's more of a candle.
The other thing that I was going to say, so developing your self-discipline muscle is really only about showing up for yourself. So it's about let's just say because what I get all my clients to do at the end of every week when they do their check-in is that they make certain promises to themselves. And in those promises, I'm looking for to make sure, number one, that they're not too big, or that I don't think they're too drastic for where they're at, where they want to go, etc. And I'm also looking that they're still, though, a promise enough that it's something that they need to work on, or they need to improve on, or they need to focus on, or they need to be a little bit better with. And the way to develop your self-discipline muscle is just to basically set promises that are realistic enough that you can actually show up for them, but they're just slightly uncomfortable enough that you actually have to think about making the change. So it doesn't have to be big and drastic. In fact, it shouldn't be big and drastic. And then the more you keep those promises to yourself and you don't just go, screw it, I deserve a donut today, or screw it, um not going to work out today because I'm tired, or I don't have time today, or whatever the case might be, and you legit understand the difference between, or you teach yourself to understand the difference between reasons and excuses, that's how you develop your self-discipline muscle. In my opinion, based on what I've learned and what I've done and what we've accomplished, is that self-discipline is actually a significant form of self-respect and a form of self-love. The more discipline, the more you can teach yourself self-discipline, and this is why I started this conversation kind of with in the beginning, or what I hinted towards, self-discipline seeps into all other areas of your life. It's not just about, I need the self-discipline to go to the gym so I can get stronger, or I need the self-discipline to choose this more often than this, food-wise, because I want to lose weight. It's about when you develop a self-discipline muscle and when you become more self-disciplined, you're teaching yourself that you respect yourself, that you are worthy of something different, that you are worthy of being disciplined in these areas because you want change, and the change that you're after is benefiting you in a way that makes you healthier, that drives you towards the goals you have long term, whatever that is, that might be helping you get. If you were in school and it required study and you needed study in order to be able to say change your career or something like that, you wouldn't just be able to say, oh, I'm not motivated today to study. I mean, I guess you could, but you're not going to get to where you want to go if you do that. But and it's the same thing as coming home from work and sitting down watching Netflix and then complaining that you don't have time, because the truth is that's not true. If you have enough time to sit down and watch Netflix or YouTube or whatever the case may be, then you have enough time to go do a 30-minute workout. If you have enough time to sit down after you get home from work and sit on the couch and literally scroll your phone because you're tired for 30 minutes, you also have time to cook supper. And don't get me wrong, we don't cook very much. We don't like to cook. And we just, I'm not saying you have to cook, but what I'm saying is a lot of people will use those things as excuses, and then they'll call skip the dishes. Or they'll use those things as excuses, and then the time is gone, and now it's too late for them to get to the gym because they have to go pick up their kids from school, or they have to start supper, or whatever the case may be, when technically you had the time. That's the difference between a reason and an excuse. So when you show up for yourself in a way that helps you develop that self-discipline, then that self-discipline seeps into all other areas of your life, and you start to feel better about yourself because you start to feel accomplished by the things that you're doing. It's like all of a sudden, instead of using all these excuses to not show up for your workout, or to not cook supper, or to call, skip the dishes, or whatever the case may be, or to not study, or to, not pay off debt, now you're looking at it differently because you've started to, in small incremental blocks, you started to build on accomplishment, and accomplishment is how you create confidence. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And one of the other things that I'd like to point out with discipline also gives you the ability to be conscious of the consequences of your actions.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I mean, like when you're disciplined, when you're practicing self-discipline, you're then making conscious decisions whether or not, like you said, eat that donut or whatever.
Right.
And understanding the consequence of eating that donut within the realm of your goal. So, like, for example, okay, well, I'm going to eat that donut today because I want it. And I also understand that that's going to add X amount of calories to my diet, to my day. So I know I have to adjust something else to make that work.
Right.
And that's another key element of discipline.
Yeah, and that's that thing. Well, one of the things that I always say, and I use this phrase a lot, is mindful intention. Mm-hmm. So when you can be mindfully intentional, you're making your choices from a place of self-discipline. And discipline for one person might be saying no to the donut, but for another person, discipline might actually be saying, I'm going to have the donut, but I'm only going to have one, as an example.
Right.
So that you've allowed yourself permission to have the donut, and that's okay, because maybe that's not something you ever would have done because you've been so restrictive and had so much guilt around food. That's a win for somebody. That's an actual.
See, and that's another good point, is that restriction is not discipline.
No, and this is an extremely, it's like, so we
Right?
can get really big into
We can get really
we can
deep.
get really deep here because restriction we often think of as a form of self-discipline.
Yes.
But technically speaking, the difference is that restriction is not a form of self-discipline at all because restriction is not a choice. You're not actually making the choice your own. You're being told that this is good or this is bad and I need to feel guilty for this and yada yada. So that's not a choice you're making. That's
Right.
something that you had ingrained in here from diet culture.
Yeah.
Restraint is actually discipline.
Right.
So there's a box of donuts here. We'll use donuts as an example because we like donuts. There's a box of donuts here. On a normal day, I'm either going to do one of two things. I'm going to white knuckle through and not have any because guilt and donuts are bad and I will feel guilty and it's not good for me and I can't do that and lose weight, so I'm not going to have any donuts. Or there's this box of donuts here, and I really like 3 of those kinds, so I'm going to have them all. So restraint is different. Restraint is going, there's a box of donuts in the work staff room or whatever, and do I actually feel like them today? You know what? I think I can pass. I'm not even going to bother. And you move on.
Yeah. Or
there's a box of donuts in the staff room. I really feel like I would enjoy a donut today. I actually feel like, I'm only going to eat it until I'm full. So that might only mean eating a bite, or that might only mean, or until I'm satisfied, I'll say. And that might only mean eating half of it. And you know what? I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to not feel guilty after, and I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
Either decision is fine, and either decision is discipline.
Yeah. The way I look at it is restriction is driven by guilt, and restraint is driven by discipline. Is how I differentiate.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
And Kevin and I or Fit Girls Rock is mostly geared towards building a relationship with food, helping you, turn away from restriction and white knuckling through and those kind of things, and actually making the choice about taking your own power back and making your own choices. Right. But this can technically be, it can be like the example I just used with school. If you wanted to change your career, it can be applied to debt reduction. It can be applied to, whatever big goal or dream you have for yourself or for your family or for you and your husband or whatever the case may be. It can be driven by that because delayed gratification also comes into context of self-discipline. So where delayed gratification is basically just delaying what you want in the moment for what you want most long term.
Right, and delayed gratification is a term actually we learned in debt reduction.
It is, and delayed gratification is actually a term I learned in a couple of instances in my life. One was debt reduction. The second one was building a business, and actually the third one would be creating a lifestyle. Because you have to sometimes, again, in reference to the donuts, you have to sometimes make the choice to delay gratification, even if you sometimes really wouldn't mind the donut. Sometimes delayed gratification is a practice that helps you develop self-discipline. Sometimes just saying no and moving on is a good practice to have, even if, because we can convince ourselves that we really, really want something and we really, really need it and we really, really need it now. But we can also practice the development of self-discipline, the development of delayed gratification through self-discipline by also putting that off for another time or a later time or a more appropriate time. Like for me, for instance, often when we go to Kevin's parents, and we go to Kevin's parents a little bit more than we go to mine because Kevin's parents lives in Alberta and mine live in Newfoundland. But when we go to Kevin's parents, oftentimes, at least one time out of the 2 to 3 days we're there will be a dessert of some kind. And I will often say no, except for one time. And one time I'll usually have something. It might be a little piece of pie, it might be a little piece of cake, but it'll be something. Yeah. But I'll only do that one time out of the 2 to 3 days that we're there. Right. And that's almost like a practice of restraint or delayed gratification, because I don't do that very much outside of the realm of my normal life. But when I feel like when we go to Kevin's parents is a little bit special, so I can have that with them and sit down with a cup of tea and have a dessert. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
And I also look at delayed gratification as something that can be likened to the opposite of impulse buy. Like
absolutely.
Because when you were saying about, I want that, I need that, mm-hmm. I like right now kind of thing, and we can always convince ourselves to do that. So, depending on your situation, you might go, I got a credit card or whatever, so I'm going to go and rack up my credit card because I really want that right now because you've seen it advertised on TV 100 times and all your friends have one. And so, the delayed gratification is okay. Well, it might take me a month longer to get it than what my friends took,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm buying it cash, so I'm not going into hock for it or whatever. I'm going to have it at some point, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm just delaying when that starts.
And the other thing I find in that instance too is it's good to always sleep on bigger purchases because sometimes they're just spur of the moment, or sometimes it's that novelty of the. I'm not necessarily speaking from personal experience, but I have a husband who tends to sometimes
did very well this week.
He did, but I'm just saying. So those are other good examples. So I guess what we're trying to get at overall is that when you're looking for motivation, you need to stop looking for it, and instead you need to hone in on and build, practice your self-discipline muscle instead. So instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so unmotivated," you say something like, "Well, motivation is only a feeling. It's bullshit anyway. I can't rely on it. So what am I going to do to help me develop my self-discipline? Whether that's workouts, whether that's food, whether that's debt reduction, whether that's school, whatever it is, whatever you have to do that you know you should be doing." It's also understanding the difference between an excuse versus a reason. Like I said earlier, when you're sick, that's a reason not to show up for your workouts. You can't and shouldn't be working out when you're sick. But something like, I'm tired is not really a great excuse. It's not really a great reason most of the time. Most of the time we use tired and not having enough time as an excuse. And when you actually sit back and assess, most of us have plenty of time that we're wasting scrolling our phone, watching Netflix, etc., etc. So that's a good example. And then the other thing that I like to point out is that self-discipline, in my opinion, and based on my own experience, is a form of self-respect and a form of self-love. The more you can show up for yourself and develop your self-discipline muscle, the more you're teaching yourself that you're important, that you're worth something, that you are worthy of your goals, that you have the ability to do this, this, and this. And because of that, you start to build accomplishment, which in turn builds self-confidence and self-esteem. In addition to that, there's the concept then, of course, of delayed gratification. There's the concept of, I feel like we touched on something else there.
No, I think what we were going to move on from that was something to do with. No, I'm trying to think what it was now because I had two thoughts going through. I was just trying to think of one more thing to do with self-discipline and, like you say, with your self-discipline muscle. The last thing I wanted to touch on with that particular comment was the fact that it allows you to have better focus.
Oh yeah, it allows you to have. So it gives you an improved focus. It gives you more of a awareness, because that's something we talk about a lot. Like through our coaching methods, we're aiming to help our clients develop more self-awareness, which in turn develops the ability to be more intentional and more focused through the development of self-awareness. Because honestly, most of us aren't that self-aware. Sometimes we think we are, but we're not. And when we develop the self-awareness, we tune in better to what our actual focuses are, what our actual intentions are, where our intentions and focuses lie the majority of the time. And then we can make small tweaks to change those things. And that goes back to the comment that I made earlier about setting realistic expectations, making your goals be small enough that they're realistic, but also not so small that they don't make you a little bit slightly uncomfortable, that you don't even have to think about them. You want to create change. In order to create change, you have to be slightly uncomfortable.
Right. So I think where you wanted to transition the conversation next was from self-discipline to stop making things so complicated. Because self-discipline can help with that.
Yes. So something that I've noticed with certain individuals, and don't get me wrong when I say this, don't take this the wrong way, because I used to be this way too, is that is that as individuals, and I think it stems from past history, from diet culture, all these things. we have a tendency to make something extremely complicated that can be done extremely simply. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. When I say simple, I don't mean easy.
Right.
When I say simple, it's simply this, this, and this. You know, making these couple of things work for your life and learning to be consistent with them. And then because it tends to be simple or can be simple, and we're not used to things being simple, we automatically resort to trying to make it complicated. And in the process of making it complicated, all of a sudden our consistency has gone. And in the process of making it complicated sometimes, I don't think that we realize that sometimes that can be a pattern we have that sabotages our results. It's a pattern and a story we've had in our, maybe stuck in our subconscious or whatever, that all of a sudden, either one of two things, sabotages in a way where we don't really even understand that it's sabotaging us, or we're making it complicated or trying to make it complicated as almost like a scapegoat as to why it isn't possible for us.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's use me as an example, okay? I overthink just about everything. And unless somebody breaks it down very simply for me, so this is why I also have an online fitness coach. He's been the best coach I've ever had because he breaks everything down simply for me. After I competed, I struggled a lot, had huge issues. Most of you already know this story. And when I decided to hire Scott, he broke everything down very simply for me and said, Melissa, this is the issue you have. This is what we need to do to fix it, yada, yada, yada. When he broke it down simple, I was able to take it and run with it. But until somebody broke it down simply for me, I was always constantly overcomplicating it. And I was going, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. And I don't know what it is. And yada, yada. I can't do this, etc. In business, I was the same thing. I was really struggling for a while. And I couldn't get my head wrapped around, is there more that I need to be doing? Is there not? Yada, yada. And I hired a coach, couple of mentors. And again, extremely simple process. I was way overcomplicating it, either because of, not believing in myself, self-sabotage, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. And I see this with clients as well. Some clients will extremely overcomplicate something that doesn't need to be complicated, either one, because that's what they're used to doing. They're used to things being hardcore. They're used to restriction. They're used to elimination. They're used to deprivation. They're used to having to go hardcore in the gym, no pain, no gain, go big or go home. And because of those reasons, they want to make something more complicated, even though I'm trying to teach how to keep it simple.
Right. But the other thing, too, that drives that is the diet culture in of itself.
Yes.
Because the diet culture, like specifically if you look at TV adverts and things like that, they're using all kinds of buzzwords to make you believe that they have the solution. They have the thing, like when you're talking about macros, macronutrients, tracking this, doing that. All those sorts of things are things that if you're not doing that, you're not going to be successful.
Right. Or if you're not buying supplements, you're not going to be successful. Or if you're not, whatever the case may be, you're not going to be successful. And so there's that. And then there are other people who are stuck in their same tired stories and patterns, and they can't see that what they're doing by overcomplicating it is actually creating a way for them to say, you know what, I can't do it. It's too hard for me. I can't do it. This doesn't work for me because it's this, this, and this. The more you try and overcomplicate it and you don't keep it simple, the harder it is going to appear, and the easier it is going to be to have a scapegoat that says, basically, fuck this, I can't, kind of thing. So if you keep it simple and you lean into the fact that it can be simple, you can work on your consistency. You can work on your self-discipline. You can teach yourself to be more confident, accomplish things, break it down simply, set realistic expectations, no longer rely on motivation and use that as an excuse not to do. All the things that Kevin and I just talked about and broke down. If you keep it really simple and you lean into it being simple, and lean into it being simple as almost like a form of discomfort, because for most people it is, for me it was, then you can start to create something different for yourself. And you can build on things that develop a stronger mindset, develop a more growth-oriented mindset, that develop, the concepts that we just talked about. Delayed gratification to improve self-discipline, to then, therefore, in turn, improve accomplishment, improve self-love, improve self-confidence, improve self-esteem. All of everything is interconnected in ways that we don't often notice until we develop the self-awareness to notice
Right.
where everything and how everything kind of seeps into everything else.
It's extremely rewarding for us when we see clients have that aha moment where it's like, really, this is all I got to do.
Or even like, really, like I just had a conversation with a client in their midpoint chat for my current 6 week, and she said to me she's really proud of herself for noticing when she's hungry, when she's feeling cravings and potentially why, when she's feeling more snappy and potentially why. And we often don't think of it. And we had a conversation, and she even mentioned to me that because she showed me she presented me her progress, and she said her first words were, I think I did my inches wrong in the beginning because I don't feel like I should have there should be this many inches missing, which means she's lost a ton of inches, which is great. And then she said, and then I said, and how's your weight? And then we talked about her weight, and her immediate response was, and I'm kind of thinking that must be off too. And again, these are common things that we often do to ourselves. And I told her to own her progress and own all of it. And that these things, she talked about, like, she's always had some sort of imposter syndrome. And these things too, even recognizing that in yourself and recognizing those things, those are all huge developments of self-awareness that my goal as a coach is to aim to help my clients achieve, because self-awareness is the key to self-mastery. And when you have more self-awareness, you are way more likely to be successful than somebody who has their blinders on and has no idea what they're doing or why and what they do, what their stories and patterns are like, what their limiting beliefs are like, what their self-sabotage patterns are like.
Yeah, when you say the blinders on, that's people who just want to be told what to do.
Yes.
They want a program, they want a meal plan, they want.
And don't get
all. No, I understand, but what I'm saying is that those things are fine if they're used in the right context.
No. What I was going to say.
When they're not in the right context, and you just want to put the blinders on, get on a set of railroad tracks, and go at it. Well,
yeah, because what I was going to say is, don't take us wrong when we say, people just want the answers. I have no problem providing my clients little clues and tricks and tips as to, how to achieve what they want to achieve. Obviously, I'm supposed to be the guide. You're paying me to be the guide. You're paying me to provide you the tools. What I don't do for my clients is say, you need to eat this, this, and this, and this, and this amount, this, and this. I help them understand what works for them so that they can create an actual lifestyle, not me just telling them and giving them a bunch of rules and restriction and all of those things. And then once they are done 6 weeks or whatever they sign on with me for, they still have no clue what to do.
Right, because the science behind foods can tell you these are the foods that get you the best results, and here's the quantity of those foods that will get you those results. And you go, well, I don't really particularly like those foods. So that's why creating a diet plan can be very difficult, because we don't know your tastes. We only know from science and what have you what works that way or what works for us or what we've learned works for other people.
Yeah, I mean, the science behind fat loss, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you already know this. You need a calorie deficit to create fat loss. Calories the same as, it creates maintenance. More calories than you burn creates fat gain. And so, we can get it. Kevin and I have already dug really deep into this many times, but you don't necessarily. A lot of people feel they need to be told what to do, again, because of pattern and history. This is what diet culture does, so I need to be told exactly what to do, and if I'm not told exactly what to do, well, how am I going to be successful, et cetera, et cetera. But you need to learn. You need to learn what to do. And when you learn what to do through trial and error, through guides, through tools, through, what, I really struggled with this week. Do you have any tips and tricks on it? We go through some tips. We go through some things to implement. We go through those kind of ways. That's how you learn. You only learn through trial and error, through struggle, through, accepting feedback and implementing that feedback, through, guidelines, tools. But you don't learn by being told exactly what to do, when, how much, what food, etc., etc. So you need to be open to some testing on your own, because, for instance, I'm not a huge fan of eggs, but a lot of people love eggs. But I don't use eggs as a source of my protein the majority of the time. But other people love it. I love chicken, and I eat a lot of chicken. But there are other people who don't enjoy chicken as much as me. So I wouldn't force any of my clients to eat chicken just because that's what I love. That's where I get the majority of my protein.
I pluck feathers.
As an example. As an example. So anyway, the point of this live today was to help you understand that motivation is not really a thing you should be using as an excuse, and that self-discipline is a muscle that you can develop and that you should be practicing developing. That it's important to understand delaying gratification and self-discipline, and how it all connects together as a form of self-respect and self-love, and how when you look at those things, instead of looking at them as a negative thing that you have to do, look at them more of a positive thing, and how you're going to grow as an individual by implementing them, and how you can grow as an individual, and how all of the things that you can learn through self-awareness, mindful intention, and being more disciplined, to making the harder choice in the moment as opposed to just taking the easy route all the time into your comfort zone, can make the changes that you're after in your life. And it doesn't have to be that, it feels hard, don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but it can be simple. Keep your goals simple, keep them small, keep them realistic, but push yourself that little bit that you actually have to think about making that change and showing up for that change. And over time, that can literally, with consistency and showing up for that, consistently, that can actually be enough to create change. And that kind of change, as I mentioned earlier, creates accomplishment, which creates self-confidence, which builds self-esteem. It seeps into so much other things and can affect not just yourself, but your family members, your husband, your kids, your parents, your siblings. It has an impact that goes way bigger than just body composition change.
And when you look at, all the world's top successful people and things like that, and you obviously any ones that have written books or what have you, or that do talks, if you're just looking at it now, yes, they look successful and they have all these things going for them and what have you, but they've all started somewhere. They've all started at the bottom. They've all had to work their way to the top. They didn't get where they are. We didn't get where we are just by relying on being motivated.
And the funny thing about this is, and I'll give you a little story before we end it. When I was struggling most with wanting change and not actually doing anything to achieve it, even though I was kind of convincing myself that I was doing it, I used to look at these people and think what they're saying is a load of bullshit. There's no way that they did. They struggled like I am, or you can literally convince yourself of anything.
Yeah.
So you feel like, and maybe you're thinking it right now, I don't know, these people have a secret that they're not telling you, or that there's some little secret, there's some little thing that must be the thing. There has to be a thing, and it must not mean that I have to do this, this, and this, and this. But whether you want to believe us or not, there is no secret. There is no hidden thing. The things that, Kevin and I have done, or that Tony Robbins has done, or that Dana Lynn Bailey has done, or whoever else you look at as like somebody you'd aspire to be, or Mel Robbins, or whoever, they have done nothing differently except consistency, self-discipline, delayed gratification, showing up for themselves, practicing over and over and over through the monotony of doing the same things on the same day, developing routine, developing structure.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Like one of the things that you've been reading a lot of in this last little while, in the book you're reading now, was eliminating how many choices or decisions you got to make in a day.
Yeah, I mean, even just, and this is actually my Tip Tuesday, this next coming Tuesday, so a week from today.
Spoil it?
No, it's fine. It's also eliminating, we don't often recognize how many decisions we make in a day. Small decisions, big decisions. And each decision we make takes away from our ability to make good decisions as we go throughout the day, or stronger decisions as we go throughout the day.
Right.
So eliminating as many decisions as possible from our day helps us be more focused, intentional, and whatever. So these are all things too that, as individuals, when you start to practice different things and you start to always want to be growing and learning and becoming and, getting better as an individual, or however you want to look at it, these are all things you learn as you go along.
Right. Like, for example, for myself, we've been together for 15 years.
16 years, but okay.
16 years. This is just going to reinforce why I'm going to say what I'm about to say. So this is for all you husbands out there.
There's no husbands watching. There's only girls in this.
I know, but...
Anyway, go on for the husbands.
So I started a practice. It was, okay, you want to call it a personal New Year's resolution. I'm going to get smacked with this. Anyways, so the thing that I learned,
I have no idea where he's going with this, by the way, but
she's talking about eliminating the amount of decisions you have to make in a day. So for all you men out there that with your wives, when they ask you something that you've got to make a decision, my response is whatever my wife tells me.
my response is that, because that's my annoying face.
Where we're going to eat, wherever my wife tells me.
So Kevin often, he's joking now, but he's not really. That's what he says. It's
right.
Annoying. But there are moments in time where I get so, what's the high strung? I'll use that word.
Sure.
That phrase. I get so high strung making decisions on my. She's a good answer. So making decisions on the business, on clients, on myself, on whatever, that sometimes I'll say, or Kevin will ask me something, and I will immediately say, in a frustrating kind of tone, I don't know. And then he'll often say, this is one of those times where you want me to make the decision, right? And I will say yes. That has happened to us too on numerous occasions. But yes, he does use that phrase a lot. It's starting to get annoying, but whatever. I think that's it for today. I think we touched on a lot. If it resonated with you and you have any questions at all, please comment or post in the group or whatever. We actually enjoy doing these, so we enjoy talking about these things. If there's any topics, if there's anything else you'd like us to touch on deeper, Jacqueline, I know in your instance, for instance, you're new here. Our background, or my background, is in women's lifestyle change, fat loss, develop a relationship with food. Mindset change is my real jam. I focus a lot on mindset in my coaching and get my clients results from both a mindset perspective with self-awareness, etc., and obviously a body transformation perspective as well. And Kevin's background is whatever his wife tells him. Whatever his wife tells him, apparently. Kevin came on with the business last year, and he helps a lot more behind the scenes, but we like doing these because it shows both of us, both our personalities, gets us talking about stuff, gets Kevin kind of involved a little bit more. So if there are any questions, any concerns, anything that you want us to touch on or talk about, again, we enjoy these, so it's our jam. So anything at all, we will, if we know how to talk about it, obviously. If we have any input at all, we will do our best.
If not, I'll just light the candle.
Anyway, thanks for joining, and we will see you again next week. Same time and same place.
Yes, for now.
Yeah. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.